Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Suthar. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. I'm your host, Suthar, and guys, I am super excited to do this episode with you guys here today because I have an amazing guest. And I know what you're thinking. I say this every week, but no lie, this is going to be something that's going to be jaw-dropping because my guest today, he is my mentor. He's a friend. He's also considered as family. And when I first heard his story, wow, was it a shocker? And I know that so many of you here are going to be able to relate to it, maybe even be inspired by it. But I had to bring him onto the show today because he has helped so many people all over the world build their businesses and make it a success. In fact, he also makes 7 figures in his business. But he has got himself a reputation and people now call him Wizard of Oz. Why? Because he is the one that creates the magic in the background and pushes people to be successful. And today he's going to be sharing with us a little bit about how all of that has come about. Please welcome to the show, Timothy R. Johnson. Oh my goodness, Timothy, I am so excited for you to be here today.
Yeah, why is that?
What? Because I know this is going to be an epic show. You've got so much to share, so much experience. And you know what? The number one thing that I realize about you is that you don't let anything stop you.
Oh, that's true.
Right?
Well, I don't have dreams. I have obligations.
Right. And that's something that I've learned from you as well. And so we will be getting into the whole nitty gritty of business, and kind of picking up on things like how to be persistent, how to keep driven, how to be determined and reach for your goals. But before we get there, Tim, I would like for you to share with everybody, all our listeners, about your story, because I know this is jaw-dropping and it's going to shock a lot of people out there, but also get people motivated and inspired to keep moving forward. So tell us a little bit about what it was like when you were younger.
Well, imagine from the day you were born until you were just about 6, living in a car for most of your life, right? So I was born in Seattle, Washington. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. My sister was born in Seattle, Washington. My other sister was born in Chicago. So imagine waking up, never knowing that you never knew a home, coming to find out that your dad was a serial killer, right? And so it's, originally he killed 3 people on the side of the road. And he killed 6 people in a steakhouse. Well, fast forward 30 years, he ended up killing 43 people all over. My mom's been in prison for almost 43 years now. What's interesting, my future daughter-in-law, grandmother's first cousin was one of my dad's victims. So imagine sitting around the Easter table. Yeah, I've never told you that one. No. And so literally figuring out, and, just knowing, like I said, I mean, it was just, gunning down. I mean, he killed, a mother, a father, and a 13-year-old boy on the side of the road, over, needing money and drugs. And, and then coming to find out, like I said, and I talked to him through my 20s, I was, we were 15, 16, 17 years old. And we talked to my mom, we talked to, my biological dad, you know what I mean? But in hindsight, if you think about something, we're going to start it off like this, because you and I are both partners in Uncensored Society. So I'm very uncensored about a lot of things. And but how many young kids in Africa, the Philippines, Nigeria, even your home country, would trade us just to be in America and go, wow, that's all I have to go through to live here? So the greatest lesson in anything, was my story horrific, but according to what though, right? Mm-hmm. If you think about it, so, the stories go on. I was molested. I was beaten. My sister committed suicide. Brother might shot at dad in the face. High school was a glorified thing of Animal House. So it was just, it just always followed. And, many times I should have been dead. 2 of my friends died from whippets. One of my buddies, OD from acid, and just, an amazing thing. Like, why am I still here? Right. And it's kind of manifested over the years. And a lot of like what I seen in you, like a lot of it was your story of your mom, right? Let's be honest. You were being held back because you blamed everything on your mom. But how you blame everything on your mom when you have the right to be whatever you wish? Just understand you were trying to be an entrepreneur and your mom had a job. So it's opinion versus advice, right? We'll talk about that later. But I mean, once you understood that you loved your mom because she's trying to protect you, but really she had no advice in giving you in what you were doing. Right. And there's no way she could. Right. There's just she doesn't have the experience to give you that advice in such a way that you felt okay. And you always felt like it was an attack. Well, it's just mom being mom, right? Like mom loves you. She's just trying to protect you. So in that case, I mean, loving her enough to say, hey, mom, love you, right? And just grab some popcorn and enjoy the movie, right? Because it's going to get good. But it's just understanding it in a different light, right? The minute you understand that life is different, yeah, my story is different, but I mean, even in your home country, I mean, we could live, I mean, I forget where your grandma was from in India, but it was like, I mean, she talks about helping kids over there, right? So how many of those young kids over there, just in your grandma's story, would have come here and been like, oh shit, let's do this, right? So very different. But the story is, yeah, I mean, was it crazy? And I just, I've shared with you, it was very interesting going back to 30 years, right? And so I think you were one of the people that challenged me on this. And listen, you made me call my mom and mad and like, when do you like, and forgiving my mom, but I had never done it personally. And so you and Josh and a lot of the guys that I support and ladies and females, they're like, when are you doing it? And I'm like, well, dude, I better go preach my own shit, right? And so I did. And it was interesting, right? So part of it was understanding my mom doesn't know what YouTube is. She doesn't really know what Google is. And her just living vicariously through me, because her it's interesting what they find in currency. Prison is a very different place, right? My mom goes, and it's interesting. And part of my next book, Happily Unemployable, will be written with her. And what's interesting about it is, like when she goes, she's just sitting there. Well, someone walked up and called me a bitch. My mom was like, I just fucked her up. And I'm like, but that's life, right? Like that's what she's lived to.
Right. And so just to back it up here, you haven't seen your mom in how many years?
30.
30 years. And after 30 years, you went to meet her in prison.
Well, but I can't make you do something I don't do myself, right? I had forgiven her many times but did I go do the act of what I make most of you do? No. And so I wanted to, out of integrity, right, for you guys, and then you guys get to hear the stories, right? Because that's right. You want to know, I get to hear from your mom, It was one of the things Josh was like, we were at a men's group and Josh goes, I can't believe I just got off the phone with a serial killer. Like your mom has been in prison my whole life. And it took him a minute to fathom because a lot of people, even you, called me like when I got out, and most of the time they go, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm processing.
Yeah.
Tim Johnson never processes, but that's not true. I did, right? It was different because how do you communicate, right? Like I'm up here, and I talk at a different level, and most people, I'm working on different things at a different level, but I had to go back to third grade to really be able to communicate, not everything, but, and then, I sent a book in. We're not supposed to say, I sent my book Sold that you read. I sent that in because it was different. My mom was like, okay, you're a published author, you're this. And the warden's like, who the fuck? Like, I want to invest with your kid. And it was just different, right? And
hold on a second. You just went right past that. Wait, I just want our listeners to understand what you just said here, right? So you, regardless of what's happened to you when you're younger and growing up, right? You are a very successful man, Tim, right? You have created several businesses. You've helped so many people. You're making 7 figures yourself. You're an author. You've been on TV. You've done so many things. And you sent in your published book, Sold, right, where it teaches people about how sales techniques for your mother in prison. She read it and was so impressed of the person that you've become, regardless of what you've experienced.
My mom hasn't read it. The warden read it, and all the people. Right. So this, right? I wrote it because So what happened is just like when I sent you when you try to put in the Queen's thing, right? Yeah. And so I sent my mom, and I'm like, hey, I love you, and I wanted to make an agreement with my mom. Like, listen, I already have a set of parents, like foster parents. If you met my dad, and so I said, Dad, listen, here's my agreement, because we agree, we start and end in all agreements, right? The more you can get with your agreements, the more it is. And so I said, Mom, I already have a mom and dad. They've been my parents for 30 years, but I want you to be my mom. I want you to be back in my life. And I said, here's some agreements. And I wrote in the book, I said, I'd love to hear from you. I know it's been a long time. I don't, whatever. And so I wrote it in there, and I didn't know, like, you're not supposed to hand send a book in to your mom.
Oh.
Like, I didn't know that, but they let it in. And I had talked to Miss Diane, wonderful woman in front of the prison, and she just said, so they let it in. My mom still hasn't read my book because everybody else in there is reading. My mom's a giving person, right? So it's funny, but she's like, people are taking it home and write notes in it. My mom's like, that's crazy.
Maybe you need to send a few more copies into prison.
Oh, I'd have to send them through Amazon. Yeah, they let the first one get through, but yeah, but yeah, it was and it's very different but it's like I talked to her about mindset. I talked to her about, when she says the problem is, the challenge is, the issue is, and it's really, I'm like, Mom, like, why are you not exercising, right? Like, why are you not stretching? Like, she's almost a kidney failure, and she started taking cranberries, so she's very, in the process of thinking about things, which is very different. So yeah, very interesting.
Wow. Well, Tim, thanks for just sharing that story, because I mean, I've heard it several times, and every time you still tell it, I'm like, wow, amazing. And so I would like to kind of talk a little bit about how business came about, because there's a lot of people, I guess, that make excuses, Tim, right? And you've said this to me all the time, right? You've even told me to get my head out of my ass and just get things done, right? And so with all the kind of experiences that you've had, and a lot of people will say that you haven't had the greatest start to life, but yet you have been very, very successful. So what kept you driving and stop making excuses for yourself and becoming the successful business owner that you are?
Well, can I be raw?
Please.
Okay. So we've talked about it before. Like, we don't think about eating, just the plain act of eating. You got to go to the grocery store. You got to bring it home. You got to put it away. Then you got to cook it. Then you got to eat it. Then you got to do the dishes. Then you're going to eat it. You're going to shit it. And you start all over. Like, what a fucking pain in the ass. But nobody complains about that.
Right.
Nobody. And think about it. I'd like you to consider for a moment, like, you don't try to eat. You don't try to fuck. You don't try to do stuff. But the minute it becomes success, people start off with all the words we've talked about in the past. It's hard. It's difficult. The problem is, the challenge is, the issue is. In most cases, it's not that it's hard or it's a problem. You're just not good at it. And generally, it doesn't make financial sense to be good at anything, because why would you work on something financially and mathematically that doesn't work in your business, that you're going to create all these issues, right? So in school, when you copy off somebody, we talked about this before. How many times have I told you, I don't care what you copy from me. I really don't.
Right.
Okay. And the more that we consider what is and what ain't, it's great, right? And the more that I like to tell people all the time, like, what's easier to do? Copy off someone that's already done it. Okay. Because in school, when you copy off someone, what do they call you?
A cheater.
What do they call it in business?
Success.
And you already know that answer.
Yes.
Success. Right? Why would I want to learn and take 5 years or 6 years? Because mathematically, in most cases, you can hire somebody way cheaper than it would cost for you to learn.
Right.
So your business is mathematical and not emotional, right? And what's interesting, I'm doing a thing with Larry Yetch, and it's very interesting concept. Like, what is the desired outcome you're looking for? Right? Because if I ask you what you want in the bedroom, I would be willing to bet you could tell me in 2 seconds what's your 2 favorite positions. But I ask you where you're going to be in 10 years, ain't everybody got a fucking clue. I'm like, that's fucked up.
Yeah. Very true.
Right? Because, you're not even looking for the desired outcome. If you're not looking for the desired outcome of your business, your life, and different things, then how do you know how to get there? Like, that's the definition of insanity. Okay. So in most cases, I ask people, like, so you think sex is more important than your business? I understand if your business made more money, you probably have a lot more sex. Let's be honest.
Right.
And there's a common sense to life, right, that just makes sense. It just, like, for example, you've been told you have ADD. I'm told I have ADD. That's a gift, not a curse. Who in the fuck? Like, if you learn to organize your mind, you think faster. You get things done faster. That's not a curse. Why would I want to take pills to stop that?
Right. Oh my goodness. The thing is about you, Tim, is first of all, you don't believe in labels. And also, what I've learned about you for over the years, because I've known you for a long time now, is that where people see the negative, you always see the positive. And so your mindset works very differently to most people, right?
Well, let me ask you, if you were dating somebody, think about this, right? If I was to ask your boyfriend, you're like, hey, you're naked, he's naked, the two of you look at each other like, oh, I wonder what we do now. That never happens. I try, I did this, I did that. No, that's bullshit. You don't try to do that, right? You figure it out, okay? And it's centuries old. The difference is when we get into business, I want to start a business. And you start asking, like, I ask somebody, what do you want to be in 3 years? Like, oh, richer. That doesn't tell me what you want to be. That's bullshit. There's no design to it. There's no, like, how much money. Like, how do you know where you're going if you don't even have any idea what the desired outcome is? Like, how much money? What are you doing? What's life look like? How much money do you have in the bank? What are you doing?
And do you know what, Tim? I remember when we first met and you asked me to write down what my life looked like in 5-10 years down the line. And what I sent you was, I think, 3 sentences. And you were like, what is this? Like, this is your entire life in 3 sentences? And you made me go back, really think about it, think about the details, and jot it down. And I think I came back to you with that 3 or 4 pages of...
No, that's fine, right? Because you finally got real with yourself.
Right.
See, for example, hey, you didn't have a problem like you think you did. You just had a trust problem. Right? You were living life on empty. Like, here's your gas tank. And this comes from Supreme, from Wu-Tang Clan. And what he says, and I'm just saying, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. Yeah. And what it is what he says, and he comes back, right? He goes, when your tank is full, that's love on full. Hatred is love on empty, right? Because we walk around, if you're not trying to be loved and be whatever, then you're looking for attention. You'll never find the true connection in business with your team, with your people, with loved ones. Like, you and I yesterday, we helped out a very dear friend of mine. I'm not going to mention names, that I know for a fact will do it in a minute for me. And he has. But he forgot, like, dude, no, I'm good, man. Like, you're my brother. Like, don't fuck that. Have a great Thanksgiving. And then I will figure out, be honest, it is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have I taught you what non-negotiables are?
Yes.
Right? Here's the thing, non-negotiables, you're going to get laid. Okay. If your non-negotiables to get laid or eat or do whatever, why isn't the non-negotiable not your future?
Right.
Like, why is it not that? Why do I want to live life on empty? I want to create Michael Faber talks about moments and experiences. I want to create more great moments in life. I want to create better things in life, right? The definition of insanity, if I do the same things day in and day out and I don't change, right? We talked about this. What's the 3 investments in life? Time, money, change, right?
Yeah.
Right? When you said time, we all make up at the same time.
That's true. And the thing is, a lot of people think that. People think the most valuable commodity is time. And what you taught me was that's not true. Because no matter where you are in this entire planet, we all have the exact same time. So why is it some people are very successful and others aren't? And I want you to explain that a little bit more for our listeners today.
Well, honey, but again, just like, and can I use you as an example? Because everybody listens. We are partners in podcasting. We're partners in Uncensored Society. Yeah. I watch you in that because I love you. I think you're amazing. I just wanted you to not go home, and I wanted to reconnect you out of necessity because I know what it was like not having my mom. I knew what it was like not being able to. And so if I didn't change your perspective, anytime I want to introduce something new to you, I have to change your perspective. Yes. And in changing perspective, right, I want you to consider that I need to help in any kind of way, not help, but serve you in any kind of way that I can, okay?
Mhm.
And understanding that perspective, because the minute you can start to understand it, you can start to unravel the crap that people in society has put on you, which is all bullshit. Okay. But like rich people need, poor people need help, and rich people need served. They're the kings of their castles. And I just wanted to connect you to the real you, right? You didn't have a money problem. You had a confidence problem.
Right.
Because the minute I showed you that how many people would actually want to be around you, that wanted to love you, that wanted to do, and you dropped those walls. But we started with something Mark Anthony Bates says: people leave clues that lead to patterns that lead to choices.
Ah.
If you watch somebody's clues, right, it's one of the biggest reasons why I love Mark Anthony Bates. And when he speaks, I shut up. Is because once we understand what is possible, we can watch people's clues. What are their patterns? Do they screw other people over? Do they pay their people? How do they take care of people? Well, if they're doing that to them, right? How does your boyfriend treat their mom? How does your family do this? Or how does your husband treat their family? Like whatever it is, life takes on a different meaning when the perspective changes.
Yes. Oh, I totally get that. That's so interesting, because I guess again, people don't think of it that way.
Right.
Right. And so, Tim, how did you keep going? Right. And what drives you?
So I know my whys.
Ah, okay. So that's important to know that first.
Well, so I grew up living life on empty. I didn't trust anybody. I'd been beaten. I was molested. I was taught to do stuff, crazy shit. Watched my brother blow his brains out, or one of my buddies blow his dad's brains out. You know, my sister committed suicide. You know, so again, and it's a story long ago. You know, I happened to be spending the night with her. It was 3 days in Illinois. And I was so worried about getting lucky that I didn't pay attention to any of the clues.
Okay.
I got a letter a day later. She had AIDS. That's why we never did anything. She protected me. She could have. That's when it wasn't incurable. Okay. And again, her name was Dawn. My sister loved her to death. And so she was burnt. Right? She had one of my last foster homes I was ever in before I got adopted. It was very interesting to understand the dichotomy of what my sisters went through versus what I went through. Very, very interesting. Right. And so as I got older, I had, 3 kids. I have grandkids. Like, why do I want to generationally, right, take what my family did, my dad, and pass that on? Now, was I the world's worst? Was I the world's best dad? Not even close. I wasn't. I was horrible. But I've learned, right, through great mentorship. For example, I like being the Wizard of Oz, because most people walk up to me, they're like, I want to hire you. I'm like, and then the very next thing they tell me, well, the problem is, it's not a problem. They're not good at it. And so they literally tell me, I want to hire you, but here's why I don't. I'm not trying to, like when you came to me, you didn't have a but. Your excuse language has started after we started doing everything. Well, it's but. And like I said, are you trying to give me a lap dance, or what are you trying to do? Are you just give me excuses? You're like, I'm giving you excuses. Okay. Well, at least you're being honest.
Right.
Because once you understand that you are in full control of your life, that you are in full control of what you ask, I just ask more questions. I'm not afraid to look dumb. Here's why. In baseball, when we hit 2 out of 10, we're a minor leaguer. Right. When we hit 3 out of 10, we're a Hall of Famer, but yet we strike out 7 times. I'm just not afraid to strike out.
Right.
Because if you don't swing, how do you ever know what's going to happen?
You don't.
You don't. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. People don't get that concept, and they never will.
So it's about taking risks. That's what you're saying.
Well, is it risk, or is it just doing it? Everybody's got to be this risk, and it's this, 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 and it's this. Why does it have to be all those things? If you find a great mentor, you want to find someone to push you. Here's the thing. I just don't put up with people's bullshit.
Yep, and I know that.
Well, you watch me. Well, hey, Ken Krell will get on here, and he talks about me all the time. No, I just like, dude, I'm not giving, and he's making more money. He's traveling with his mom. which I love his mom. I know his wife. Like I know for you, your mom was one of your wives.
Yeah.
Because you were trying to hide it.
Hmm. Right.
Right? Like when mom called, I remember the first time you called your mom. Why don't you tell that story for a minute?
Oh my God, Tim, that was on my birthday. I remember you called and told me to call my mother, and you said to me, this is at the very beginning when you was deciding to mentor me, and you said to me, if you don't fix the relationship with your mother, then I will not mentor you. And you made me go into the office that you're in right now, to call my mother and apologize to her.
Right. And
I apologized to her. I was crying. I was crying so bad. I was like, I can't believe Tim, my mentor, is making me do this. And I gotta admit, it hurt my pride and my ego because, we don't like to admit things like that. But I apologized to my mom, and I remember my mom saying to me, she was like, why are you telling me this? I was like, because my mentor told me that I need to apologize to you. And she goes, who's your mentor? So I go, his name's Timothy Johnson. And she goes, is he there right now? Go, yeah. She goes, pass the phone over. And then ever since then, you and my mother have been like besties.
imagine for a moment, to be fair, and this was perspective, right? We didn't, it wasn't your ego, because explain to me just for a moment, even for the listeners, knowing how successful you are now, what would have COVID been like if you'd had a relationship with your mom like you used to?
Yes, so this all happened or end of 2019, and then COVID hit 2020. And so if we didn't fix this relationship, then we probably would have been at each other's throat. And because you are the catalyst to make this happen, right, and make me, like with all your mentors, do things we don't like to do because you can see a better future for us that we don't see at the time. We have a very different loving relationship now.
Exactly.
And everything I do is all about my mum now. But every time you call and she sees you calling on the phone, she's the first one to pick up.
Well, but what happened is it wasn't about me. It was about what you were trying to do. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much you love me?
Like 20.
Right. But here's the thing. Here's the difference in what it is. I wasn't seeking attention for you. I was seeking connection so that we could get past that. Because once we got past all that, you could learn to make money. Because your mom, to be fair, wasn't really beating you up. She just wanted you to go do something. She did not understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Right. Most of your mom's struggle was around, why are you in Bali? Why, but yet you're making money, you're borrowing money to your dad, you're doing stuff, right? And so, but she doesn't get it. That's not the typical Indian woman. That's not the culture that you live in, right? So you can't blame your mom for, right? Because the only thing her family has ever taught her was, at the micro level, was that women go to work, they take care of their husband, and then in 2020, you're not doing that. You're a mark agency, you got Uncensored Society, you got, right? And then you travel doing it. Your mom doesn't know it, and she doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
Love her enough, say, Mom, I love you. Grab some popcorn, start to enjoy the sitcom because it gets really good. And just say, Mom, I love you. Right? Yeah. But there's no way your mom will understand that. You know that. They'll be like, if you dump me in India from where your grandma talks about, I would survive, but I would have no idea how to do the language.
Right. Right. Yeah.
They would probably shoot me for being me, right? It's just different culture, right? And so again, it's perspective is everything. Okay. Right. The reason I do my boardrooms is because not generally it's always mindset. What are the bottlenecks, right? You just had bottlenecks. That was it.
Yeah.
You don't have those. When you get your bottlenecks, right? I can tell when you've been around people that have jobs because you generally come at me like, well, the problem is the challenge is just now how long does it take to test, track, and tweak you? Like, I'll just turn your head a little bit and say, hey, come on, girl, what are you doing? Let's turn this. And it's not, because you're not making up shit. You're creating this space. Like, perspective is everything.
Yeah, it is. And that's one of the things that you have taught me, which is why I have come to listen to, I guess, what you say easier than I did before, because I think before I kept fighting you. I was like, no, you're not listening to me, Tim. It's like this. And you're like, no, it's not like that. Get your head out of your ass and listen.
Right? Well, why wasn't I listening?
because what I was saying wasn't necessarily true. There's a different way of thinking. There's a different perspective.
Right. Because when I finally got you to slow down, I was able to introduce a new perspective that you couldn't see.
That's right.
Right. Because it wasn't serving you.
No. But that's what a coach and
It
a
didn't
mentor
serve you.
does.
Right. If it doesn't serve you, why do it? Okay. It just doesn't. And the minute that you understand, even the most successful people, the football teams, the basketball, all have a coach for a reason. Okay.
Yeah.
I loved you enough to give you a perspective. Here's the thing. Everybody thinks love is I want to be a cheerleader for your bullshit. I'm not.
Yeah.
Because if I am who I hang out with and the books that I read, okay, I need to have a balance. And what we gave you was a balance. You love serving your family. You love serving your people. What you were afraid of is for you to get served.
Right.
Right? That was your big thing. It was of being afraid to understand things in a different light. You didn't have your fast five.
Yeah.
And because of the friendship and the mentorship, you have a fast 100 because any one of my people that I serve and get served from would serve you too.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
How many times do you call me and in less than 30 seconds, I solve whatever it is?
Yes. Every time.
Every time.
Mhm.
Because I'm not trying to be everything to everyone. I'm not. And I'm always learning. I'm always asking more questions. Right? See,
Yeah,
here's what's interesting. But
you have a way of, and you say this to me all the time, you know, the questions you ask will result in the life that you live. And you've got a way of really pulling out information from people and listening and reading between the lines as to what is going on to get to the root of that.
right. Well, but it's true. Like you're not doing any. Okay, you're an amazing young lady. You just didn't believe in yourself. That's it. That's your culture. I had to break the culture barrier of what you believe from your culture to what life is really like.
Yeah.
I understand you're Indian. That's just who you are. I understand your last name is Suthar. I get that too. But that doesn't define, right, who you need to be.
Right. Exactly.
Like no one's holding a gun to your head and saying, listen, this is what's up. You know, I was just in a mastermind and one of the ladies up there, she goes, oh my God, I'm working 18 hours a day. And I get up, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You choose to do that.
Right.
Ain't nobody got a gun to your head. Ain't nobody got no shit. I'm tired of people blaming their family and blaming people for their shit because it's not. No one's holding a gun to your head. This ain't Vietnam. This ain't Russia. This ain't India. You know, in some of those places, you are forced to. I get it. But that ain't here. Like, get your head out your ass. And like, if you want to do something, take a look at your timeline in your business. What are you doing that's not worth your money? Like, simple. You manifested me, if you remember. Do you remember the day you manifested me?
So, do you know what? We met in Costa Rica, right? God, I think, was it 2017 or 18, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we first met. And I remember it was an event. You was one of the speakers there. And we talked vaguely, right? That was the first time like we really kind of got to know each other. And then we never saw each other for a couple of years after that. And then we reunited 2 years after on a marketer's cruise on a boat in the middle of an ocean, right? And that's where we reconnected and became business partners, friends, and family now.
But do you remember what your friend said? Do you remember that too? So you manifested me. You just didn't know you manifested me.
No.
You put the intention. What did you, and you're from Australia, and I'll see if you remember, right?
Oh, you're testing me now, Tim. I don't remember.
Okay. Who's the other one that sells for Casey? Who's his wife?
Sam.
And then what did you guys come up to me and tell me that you were going to make me do? What event?
Oh my God, well, yeah. We had this brilliant idea and we were like, we've got to get Tim to do it. Oh my God, what was it? Oh, that's right. We wanted you to speak about, I think it was a man's perspective of bringing up children, Right. And daughters in particular.
Wives and people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that day you put the attention. Here's the thing. So from one meeting, I left an impact that you came back to me years later and you were thinking, oh my God, I got to go get that guy.
Yeah.
What was different? The perspective was different. Life was different. Okay. And right after you got done with me was your first $100,000 sale.
Right. Yes.
Because the minute you learned it wasn't about you, it was about them. Made the sale.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I totally forgot about that. I'm so glad you made me remember. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Right,
and it's been an epic journey ever since.
Well, is it epic or is it just, right? You started, right? You dropped all the shit. You just did it. Really, if you think about anything that you and I have done, now I've had to talk you off walls. I've had to talk you out of your bullshit. I've had to get your head out your butt. I get it. All those are saying. None of it was attacking. Mine was like, what are you doing? Like, that makes no sense. Yeah. I try. Remember, I remember the time you tried. I'm like, so let me see. Your boyfriend and you are in the bedroom. You guys are both butt naked looking at each other. I wonder what we do now. And you start laughing at me like, that never happened. I'm like, then why are you doing that in your business?
No.
Do. If you try it, right, if you do and you strike out, I'm okay with that. But then let's figure out why you striked out. Is it because you're not good at it? Right. You didn't have a great background. That's perspective. Right. Because in most cases, it doesn't make financial sense for you to learn it on your own instead of learning off your friends.
Yeah.
I believe in stealing everything. Right. It's not illegal to steal what your friends give you.
No. And that's another thing that, I love about you is teaching people that you're not who you are because of what's happened to you. You can totally change that. And also making sure you keep the right people around you. And I know you persistently do this daily. And if they're not the right people, Tim, you don't come across as somebody that's scared to tell them that they're not the right people for your world.
Well, but you have the right, even if your mom, like I asked you about your mom, like say, and you don't be rude to her, don't be mean, but just say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. I love you. But here's where it really comes down to at the end of the day, Kay. It's opinion versus advice. Okay.
Right. Yes. I remember you telling me about this.
Right. Like your mom cannot give you advice on how to run a business. I mean, she's worked her job. She's worked for somebody else's dream. And now that you're working for your dream, right? Now, could your mom tell you how to raise a family? Could she tell you, a lot of things like, yeah, absolutely. Because she has experience doing it. Okay. When you started to, and whether you knew it or not, when you started to want to run your own business, you hunted me down. You don't even know it. Okay.
No,
well, no, but think about it. You started like, you're going to do this. I'm like, okay. And I get hundreds of people a year tell me you're going to do this. And I never hear from them because it was a lie.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
People leave clues. That's what I'm saying. People leave clues for you doing it because that's what they do.
Yeah. That's right. And so I just want to go back a little bit just to explain to our listeners the opinion versus advice.
Okay.
Right? If you could just explain to our listeners what the difference is between that.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Like your mom giving you advice, an opinion just means they have no experience doing it. Right. They have none. Like, could I have got advice on how to raise my kids better? There was no manual. Like I didn't grow up having that. So that would have been something I could have got advice on. I just, could I give advice on how to raise a family? I can now because I can tell you all the shit I messed up doing.
Right.
I give you every mistake I ever do with my family. Right. But I didn't grow up having a dad or that person to give. I had foster dads and I got to see part of it. I got some of the most horrific stories, some of the greatest hero journeys of it. Okay. Advice is when you look at somebody like, you know what? Yeah, dude, I do want to do that. Right. That's what I want because it makes sense. Right. And the minute you get that, you're like, oh, wow. Okay. If you look at like if I said, hey, Kay, let me show you how to lose weight. You're like, okay. You couldn't even get up the top of San Francisco Hill while I talk shit all the way up and all the way down and you died. I get it. That won't happen again.
Oh, that was a funny story as well. San Francisco.
I get it. But we created moments. It wasn't just all me beating you down.
Yes.
Like most people think it is. It wasn't. the minute, like, would you rather live the old K or the new K?
A new K.
Right. Here's the thing. There's no such thing as old K and new K.
Oh, that was a trick question.
It was. Because here's the thing. You're just K.
Right.
You've learned to drop a lot of the excuses that you had, and you finally went after what you know you deserve.
Yeah.
It's like whether you believe in Gandhi, whether you believe in Buddha, whether you believe in Jesus, whether you believe it doesn't matter. Okay. But isn't it interesting? You're like, so God sends you a boat. Oh, I don't trust the captain. Right. Then the boat captain's like, all right, I'm gonna throw you a raft. You're like, oh, the raft's gonna sink. Okay. You all of a sudden he sends you a helicopter pilot puts down. I don't trust the helicopter pilot. He sends you a float. Oh, that's gonna sink, and the helicopter pilot's probably gonna crash. And then you get to heaven, you're like, God, why'd you never help me? Like, dude, I've been sending you people your whole life.
Yes. Oh, that is really interesting.
You never open your mind to the opportunities. And when your mind is shut off, you'll never see the opportunity. Opportunity is everywhere.
Yeah.
And I prove it every day.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And I totally agree with that. And it's funny because the minute we shut down opportunities, they will stop showing up. And so it's a matter of
I disagree.
Do you? Okay, tell me more about that.
Opportunities everywhere. Always will be, always has been, and will continue for the rest of your life. When you shut down, you close your eye, you put blinders on that they're not there anymore. You prove to yourself they're not there. They're always there.
Right.
If you listen correctly.
Oh, interesting. Tim, before we wrap up this episode, there were so many things that we covered. You dropped so many golden nuggets that you always do. This is why I keep you so close to me, and I'm like by your side all the time. Do you have any last words for our audience?
Like we talked a lot of time. Okay, what you permit, you promote.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When you stop permitting people to shit on you, when you stop trying to make excuses for people's why they did stuff. We talked about this even with friends, boyfriend, stuff you had in the past, right? When you stop permitting, because each one of those things you said yes to, you had control of.
Yeah.
The minute you took control of what you decided to do and change your decision process as to what you accept and what you don't accept, life change.
Yeah, that's very true. I guess it's people not understanding their own value.
Well, no, they understand their own value because most of the time when you're that way, you're selfish.
Ah.
So it. You just call it something else. People that are scared, that are hurt or whatever are very selfish. They're going to be.
Got it.
Right. But if you flip that over, let's say you have a friend you were dating, and we talked about this very early on because you had attracted someone that was very selfish, always wanted your time. Right. And when I changed the perspective, you're like, oh, shit, I did attract that. You said yes to it. Right. Because at that point, you would rather be right than be rich.
Right. Yeah. You've got that sign behind you that says exactly that. You remind yourself every day.
Right. And that's it. Because the minute and I'm not saying you can't have both, because that was just proven this to me recently. But it's generally because you have somebody in your corner that is starting to show you the perspective. Because when you live life on empty, of course you're going to be selfish because you think the world is taking away from you. There is so much abundance in the world.
Yeah. When
you actually create, right? The only thing that you did was literally just shed your walls, and you're seeing how the world is opportunity, and you're enjoying the opportunities and the success that you've always deserved. It's always been there. The only person that stopped it was you.
There you go. Tim, it was such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for coming on board and giving us so many golden nuggets. It was such an honor. Thank you.
Love you. Appreciate it. Thank you for everything.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.